Hello and welcome to another video from Prep for Survival. Some of our videos are short ones, like this one, to introduce you to things you can do right now to prepare for disaster and long-term survival. As always, remember our videos are for entertainment and educational purposes only. We make no guarantees as to the content. Don't attempt anything demonstrated on this channel unless you're experienced and have done proper research. Your mileage may and is likely to vary. We're not responsible for anything resulting from what you do. Now, let's get started with things you can do right now to prepare. In this video, we're going to show you the process for rendering beef tallow and pork lard. While stores and farms are still open, you can get started right away and ensure a supply of cooking fats for lean times and survival. So, just what is tallow? How about lard? Why are they important for prepping for survival anyway? According to Wikipedia, tallow is a rendered form of beef or mutton fat. Mutton is a sheep that is over 1 year old, but usually around 3 years old. Tallow is similar in texture to butter or coconut oil at room temperature and is also shelf-stable at this temperature. It will keep for months in an airtight container without the need for refrigeration. For our purposes, we focus on beef tallow since the beef fat is the easiest for most people to find. On the other hand, lard is the rendered fat from pork. It has an entirely different taste profile. When rendered properly, it can be nearly odorless and tasteless, and it is likewise shelf-stable in a sealed container without refrigeration. Lard is a favorite for frying and for baking simple biscuits, cookies, and more. It has a waxy consistency similar to tallow. Okay, let's dig in. What do we need to produce tallow and/or lard? First, you need to find a supermarket, local butcher, or local deli who is willing to sell you the fat. Don't be shy. When at the market, ask the butcher or the person working the counter. Sometimes, it will be in the meat displays alongside soup bones and other things. Local farms who produce beef and pork will likely be a source, so ask them. In my case, I found a discount supermarket who sells their beef and pork fat for a mere 99 cents per pound if you call ahead and arrange with the butcher to have him save it and package it for sale. The beef and pork that the supermarket sells is born, raised, slaughtered, and processed in the United States. It doesn't get much better than that. Make sure that you plan to start your rendering the same day you acquire the animal fat. You, alternatively, can refrigerate and safely start the next morning, but I would not go beyond that. Plan ahead. Go get your fats, get home, and then get to rendering. This ensures freshness and success with your end product. Next, you can optionally have a meat grinder of some sort. This could be an old-school manual crank one, or it could be an inexpensive electric one. I've had a grinder attachment for my stand mixer for years and years, and I opt to simply use that. If you don't have one, and it isn't in the budget to get one, that is fine. You can skip the grinding process altogether. You'll need some kind of rendering or cooking vessel. This can be as simple as a big pot on your stove. If you have a slow cooker or electric crock pot, you could use that as well. Electric roasters, like those used around the holidays, work equally as well. In this video, I used a stainless steel multi-cooker that I have. I like that I can control the cook time and the temperatures with greater flexibility, while also freeing up my stove for regular cooking. Aside from the regular items you will likely have in your kitchen, you should probably have a good ladle, a fine mesh strainer of some sort, and a funnel or canning funnel to minimize spills when filling mason jars or other containers with your rendered fat. A good cutting board and chef knife along with kitchen shears prove helpful if you are grinding the fat before rendering. If you are using a grinder, your first step is to make sure using your cutting board, knife, and possibly your kitchen shears that the fat is cut into manageable sizes to feed into the throat of the grinder. You don't want it to jam up and harm your grinder or waste the fat you want to render. Then, simply grind it all into a collection bowl for the next step. Please note, if using an electric grinder, they tend to get very warm during the grinding process. You'll want to take little breaks. This will allow the grinder to cool down so it does not melt the fat as it processes it through the grinder body. I typically use a medium-sized grinding plate to minimize the heat up, but use whatever you're comfortable with. Once done, you should have a bowl of nicely ground fat ready for rendering. Regardless of your decision to grind or not, the next step is to load the rendering vessel of your choice with the fat. If you chose to grind, the end of the rendering process will provide you with bits of cooked meat that are called cracklins, which are an amazing, keto-friendly snack with a number of uses. Heat your fat to get it to melt, and start a slow, steady simmer to a light boil. Once you reach that stage, the rendering has begun, and you will need to check on it and stir it. This is your frequent inspection to make sure all is going well. You do not want to burn nor scorch anything. When stirring, be sure to scrape up any sticky bits on the bottom of the pan or roaster. If the boiling seems too rapid, simply turn it down. If you lost the boil, turn it up again. The actual temperature you render at will depend on the vessel you use or the type of heat, whether electric, gas, or induction. Start at a medium-high temperature if you are new to this, and keep an eye on the situation until you maintain that light boil. After a while, your rendering process will reveal that you have more liquid fat than solids in the cooking vessel. You can decide to start removing some of the rendered fat now, or wait until all solids are reduced to cracklins and all fat is ready to remove. It doesn't matter too much, except that when removing liquid fat while still rendering remaining solids may cause your boil to increase rapidly. Keep an eye out for burning and scorching. The end of the process is simply removing the rendered liquid fats to your chosen storage containers. I tend to recommend mason canning jars as they are relatively inexpensive and reusable. Wide mouth is the easiest for accessing the tallow or lard for use, but use whatever you have on hand. Clean and sterilize your jars or other containers as you would for canning or proper storage. Set up your funnel and fine strainer and prepare to ladle the rendered liquid into the jars. Take your time and dump the solids stopped by your strainer back into the main rendering vessel. The idea is to keep as many solids as possible out of the jars. You want pure tallow or lard. Some people will opt to use cheesecloth with their strainer, but I find it to be messy with mixed results. Once you have used your ladle and strainer to fill as many jars or other storage containers as possible, you are left with the meaty bits in the pan or slow cooker that have been slow cooking during the entire rendering process. If finely ground, they are the consistency and appearance of bacon bits. The beef ones taste like beef bacon, if that makes sense. The pork cracklins taste like a very mild and crisp pork. Adding salt to these cracklins make them a tasty treat and awesome salad topping. We will dump them out onto a brown paper bag or a paper towel-covered plate to drain the excess fats and leave them to crisp. Then, we simply put them in Ziploc baggies and munch on them as a treat. Add them to mac and cheese for extra healthy fats, or use them as salad toppers. Cracklins aside, the real value in this video is the end product of your rendered lard or tallow. Fats and oils are notoriously rationed or become quickly inaccessible during war and other emergencies. Taking a few extra dollars and some time now, you can ensure that you and your loved ones have a much-needed commodity when times get rough. The white gold sitting in those jars will prove their value for life-saving, bartering, and more. This has been a presentation of Prep for Survival, which is a project under learning4u.org. Help us out by subscribing and hitting the notifications icon. We're planning to offer special deals, contests, and freebies for subscribers, so get in on the action and help us out at the same time. Please visit our main site at learning4u.org and look for our boot camps and other survival courses. Thank you. Together, we can all survive and win the war ahead.